9, and 10. Police say their father killed them in a murder-suicide attempt last September. While a new housing complex opens its doors to formerly homeless veterans, folks in Council District 2 come out for lunch with their councilmen, and a major makeover is being planned for Hollyhock House at Barnsdall Park. All these stories in City Beat. Mayor Eric Garcetti joined Senate President Pro Tem Kevin De Leon, Councilmember Gil Cedillo, and other community leaders for the grand opening of The Six, a new affordable housing development serving formerly homeless veterans in Los Angeles. Located in MacArthur Park, The Six offers 52 units and is the Skid Row Housing Trust's first development outside downtown LA, focusing specifically on veterans.
I'm grateful to have my own place. I went from homeless to home owner.
We want you to know you're home, and we are part of your family. We look out for each other, we'll look out for you, and you look out for us.
Councilman Paul Krikorian recently hosted Lunch with Paul at Mexican Grill Q Rico's on Victory Boulevard to provide an opportunity for community members to meet their neighbors and learn about community issues. Krikorian also said the gathering helps boost support for small businesses and job creation in his district.
Now that they've tasted his tacos, they'll come back.
LA City Council member Mitch O'Farrell recently announced a major restoration project at Barnsdall Park's Residence A, the dilapidated and shuttered guest house for the historic Frank Lloyd Wright-designed Hollyhock House, which is also owned by the city. O'Farrell has identified close to $2 million in funding from Community Redevelopment Excess Bond proceeds. Total cost of the restoration project is estimated at $3.2 million. O'Farrell says restoration projects like these are important because they uplift our spirits.
Just imagine, once this is restored, how that's going to inspire countless people, young people, into a life of art and architecture and appreciation of, historic resources and valuing what we have.
Improvements at 8 bus stops along North Broadway in Solano Canyon and Chinatown have been completed. This project, funded by a Metro Call grant, was a collaboration of the Office of Councilmember Gil Cedillo, Bureaus of Street Services and Street Lighting, and the communities of Solano Canyon and Chinatown. Improvements include installations of sidewalk bump outs, bus shelters, bus benches, bike racks, safety lights, trees, access ramps, and high visibility crosswalks. 2 bronze plaques were also installed, highlighting the history of the Solano Canyon community. While high school students put their projects to the test for a shot at the national title, not to mention high-paying careers. Gil Reyes reports from Cal State LA.
5 kilograms, 10 kilograms.
How much weight can this bridge take? We're about to find out as the weights and the odds of holding up are stacked against it.
16, 18, 20, 18 kilograms.
It was definitely hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was fun though, right?
Oh, it was definitely fun, yeah. A lot of fun.
10 kilograms. 10 kilograms.
Another tough break at LA's 15th annual high school bridge building competition. Teams from 8 different high schools compete to see whose bridge can withstand the most weight before breaking.
It could take just an extra kilogram of pressure to make it all snap. This event, hosted by the Bureau of Engineering every year, aims to recruit more young people into the field of engineering to replace an increasingly retiring workforce.
We're at the point in our city's workforce life cycle that there is a need for succession planning. We need to develop the new batch of engineering professionals, gender-wise, diversity-wise, so we can build the city of the future.
Plans that include a new 6th Street Bridge. The largest bridge renovation project in LA history is expected to be completed in 2019. As LA's transportation infrastructure grows, more people will be needed for high-paying jobs designing the bridges of tomorrow.
I didn't want to have the basic job of like being in a desk and doing work all day. So this opens a new light for me because it shows I could be as creative as possible.
Bureau of Engineering staffers mentored the kids during weeks of preparation. The students learned about theory, physics,
and a lot about teamwork and how you can't always work with the people you want.
And I kind of learned how to get along with other people and just make friends.
The top 2 finishers now head to the national competition in Chicago. At Cal State LA, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Congratulations to the winner. Los Angeles High School and Lewis Continuation School took second place. They're headed to the national finals this month. While the American Academy of Pediatrics says the majority of kids involved in bicycle accidents are not wearing safety helmets, increasing the risk of brain injuries in children. As Gil Reyes reports, officers hope a more visual approach will help them learn their lesson.
3.
Here's what could happen to your skull if you don't wear a bicycle helmet. Your head cracked open on the cement after a nasty fall. Now let's see when your head's protected. See, no splatter. LAPD officers hope this lesson stressing the importance of wearing helmets sinks in.
But now that I know that I have to have a helmet, I can be safe while riding a bicycle or skateboard.
Norma Martinez is among the students taking part in this Walk, Ride, and Roll safety seminar. It's happening in partnership with the group Safe Moves at LeConte Middle School in Hollywood.
Well, LeConte has a skateboard park that the after-school students use, and a lot of them aren't wearing helmets, and we thought this was a perfect opportunity to stress how important helmets are when you're riding your bike and skateboard. And with all the media attention on concussions that football players are suffering, we want to bring attention back to what kids are suffering from traumatic head injury, death, and brain injury because they're not wearing a bicycle helmet.
California law says kids under 18 must wear helmets when biking or skating.
I wear the helmet, even though legally I don't have to wear the helmet, but I wear the helmet because you never know what's going to happen.
It could save your life. So we encourage every single one of you to please wear a helmet.
So don't be a melon head. Protect your noggin. In Hollywood, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The Institute for Highway Safety says helmet use can reduce the risk of head injuries by 85%. While Ciclavia rolls into 6 South LA neighborhoods, if you love everything pickled and brined, check out the Pickle Party at Grand Central Market and enjoy your favorite classic movies under the stars. All this in this week's Things to Do. For the first time, Ciclavia will connect 6 communities in Southeast Los Angeles with an open streets event on May 15th. The communities of Huntington Park, Walnut Park, Southgate, Florence, Firestone, Linwood, and Watts will host the country's largest open streets event. Streets will be closed to cars and open for cyclists, pedestrians, runners, and skaters to use as a recreational space with nearly 10 miles of car-free streets. This Ciclavia is sure to be a great one with tons of music and shows planned at every hub. Hop on your bike on Sunday, May 15th. The free event goes from 9 to 4 p.m. For more, visit ciclavia.org. The first ever Grand Central Market Pickle Party will be a one-day edible exploration of all things pickled, brined, and fermented. The GCM Pickle Party will introduce visitors to the wide world of pickles and explore the cultural diversity of pickling traditions from around the globe. Market vendors will create one-time hashtag flash sale menu items based on pickled ingredients, and visitors will learn to pickle at chef demonstrations while also rolling up their sleeves to make sauerkraut alongside the country's premier fermenter. The public is invited to join the day-long kraut mob on Sunday, May 15th at Grand Central Market, located at 317 South Broadway from 10 to 5 p.m. For details, visit grandcentralmarket.com. It isn't summer in LA until the first cemetery screening brings hordes of movie lovers to Hollywood Forever, toting folding chairs, picnic blankets, and snacks. Cinespia brings classic cult favorites to the hallowed resting place of such Hollywood greats as Rudolph Valentino and Bugsy Siegel. Moviegoers can enjoy DJ sets, dance parties, sleepovers, and more. It's the perfect summer experience under the stars in one of the best film venues in the city. On Saturday, May 14th, go back in time with Jeff Spicoli for a screening of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Doors open at 6 and show begins at 8:30. For more, visit cinespia.org. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
My mom kept telling my dad to clear the brush from around our house because it was a fire hazard and clearing it could save our house someday. My dad kept saying he would do it someday, someday, someday. Then someday came and it was too late, too late, too late. Don't wait until it's too late. Clear the brush now.
It all started that one day. I knew then my destiny. To have a career where I can achieve my best. Where every day is different. Where lifelong friendships are made. Where I'm saving lives and inspiring others. My name is Mackenzie Vandergeest, and I am a Los Angeles firefighter.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
your offices, please report to the council chambers. We can begin our work for today. I do want to thank Mr. Harris Dawson and Mr. O'Farrell and Mr. Root for being today's members of the On-Time Caucus. Members, if you're in your offices, please report to the council chambers. Mr. Bonin has arrived. Please report so that we can begin our work for today. Sergeants, please notify the members and request that they come to the council chambers. Members, if you're in your offices, please report to the council chambers so that we can begin our work today. Again, let me thank Mr. Bonin, Harris, Dawson, Martinez, O'Farrell, and Root. Please, members, if you're in your offices, report to the council chambers so that we can begin. Sergeants, call the members and have them report to the council chambers. Call the offices. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is Friday, May 13th. If everyone could please take their seats. Shh. I want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council chambers. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock. The public is welcome. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Harris Dawson, Weezar, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Weezar moves, Bonin seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
O'Farrell moves and Mr. Koretz seconds. Next.
Mr. President, there is a request to receive and file item 1IKL and to continue 1C to June 10th, 2016, 1N and G to July 1st, 2016. Also, the department requests to receive and file number 1A, B, E, and F inasmuch as the liens were paid in full.
Okay, so without objection, that will be the order. Please continue.
Item number 1 is an item notice for public hearing.
Do we have cards?
Yes, Mr. President.
Then let's continue.
Items 2 and 3 are items for which public hearings have been held. Mr. President, the committee reports for items 2 and 3 have been submitted and are circulated for Council's consideration.
All right, Mr. Weezar.
Two special, please.
We'll hold Mr. 2. We'll hold Mr. 2. We'll hold item 2 at Mr. Weezar's request. Okay, let's prepare to vote on the remaining item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, let's move forward to the next set of items, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, items 4 through 13 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do we have cards?
Yes, Mr. President. There are cards 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Okay.
Also, Mr. President,
yes.
For item number 9, there is a technical correction. The recommendation C should be class code 0596, sir.
Okay. So let's vote on the remaining. I think there's an item or two we can vote on. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that brings us where? Mr. Weezar.
Thank you. On number 5, can we do urgent forthwith, please, if there's such a thing, or forthwith?
Okay,
whatever.
then let's first we'll have to vote on that. So let's do a separate vote on 5 to send it super urgent. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that brings us where?
That brings the council to a special meeting, sir.
Okay, why don't we just go back? Let's stay in the regular for now, regular meeting.
Presentations, sir, general public comments, or items called special, sir.
Thank you. We'll go to item 6, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or at J. Walsh Confidential. tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is item number 6. This is the LACC Conservation Corps for various street maintenance efforts in this Council District 3. Council District 3 is Mr. Blumenfield's direct. You don't need any more money because the homeless are not allowed to go into certain council districts, particularly if they're black or Hispanic.
Stay on the subject, Mr. Walsh.
HollywoodHighlands.org. 11% increase in homelessness.
You're off the subject. Thank you very much. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Mr. Huizar, are you ready? Presentation, I believe?
Yes, sir.
So the floor is now Mr. Huizar's.
We have one for who? Who do we have one for?
It's on there.
Welcome. Welcome. Hello. Welcome. How are you? I know. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you. How are you? Good. Well, good morning, everyone. And this month is CalFresh Awareness Month, and it is important to take note of the positive impacts that this program makes in the lives of many families in Los Angeles and throughout California. CalFresh, formerly known as Food Stamps, is a program that provides monthly benefits to help low-income families purchase the food they need to maintain adequate levels of nutrition. Programs such as this help provide access to healthy foods for families that wouldn't have it otherwise. In an effort to increase access and participation to CalFresh throughout the month of May, there are a series of community outreach and media events designed to increase awareness of the new name and encourage eligible individuals and families to apply. To get the word out, the Department of Public Social Services and partnering agencies will be attending local food banks, churches, senior centers, and health centers. CalFresh outreach workers will be at farmers markets throughout the month providing program information and accepting applications. The Department of Public Social Services also sponsors numerous events throughout LA County in order to increase enrollment among eligible low-income individuals and families for this valuable federal program. Ensuring proper access to healthy foods is a very important issue for our communities throughout the city and county of Los Angeles, and indeed throughout the United States. Studies show that some 8.5 million Americans, including nearly 3 million children, experience hunger on a daily basis. That, my friend, is a great American tragedy. Many rely on local food pantries, soup kitchens, or local emergency food assistance programs to provide them with food. In the city of Los Angeles, approximately 500,000 residents might be eligible for CalFresh, but are not participating or enrolled in the program. We need to change that dynamic. CalFresh Awareness Month is all about making sure people have access to healthy food and aren't going hungry. I want to thank our partners today for being here. First, I'd like to introduce Claire Fox, the Executive Director of the Los Angeles Food Policy Council, to say a few words. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilman Huizar, for all your leadership on this issue. Good morning, council members. I've been before you several times on different food policy issues, and I have to say I'm particularly excited about today because with the proposal that's before you, that Councilman Huizar has brought before you, I believe that the city is poised to make history in terms of expanding access to low-income families. CalFresh is a lifeline for low-income families. We know this, but unfortunately it's massively underutilized in LA County. More than half of those who could benefit from this public benefit don't use it, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the issues is the quantity and the quality of the locations where you can redeem the benefit. So I'd like to share with you a perspective of a CalFresh recipient who shops at the Central Avenue Farmers Market in Council District 9. Her testimony was recorded by our friends at SILA who run that farmers market, and this is translated from Spanish. Her name is Lilia. She said, "I'm very happy purchasing produce at the farmers market with the food stamps because I can grab more fruits and vegetables for my girls. They love it because everything is organic and more fresh. We benefit more with the extra money the stamps give us." CalFresh, or EBT at farmers markets, is one of the most effective ways to support healthy eating for low-income families. Studies have shown this, that when there's EBT at farmers markets, especially if there's market match coupled with that, low-income people consume 50% more fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. And of course, that means sales are growing for the farmers, which is the other big win here. That same market that Lilia shops at on Central Avenue coincidentally had the best CalFresh EBT day ever yesterday, with over 200 CalFresh EBT transactions totaling $3,000 of benefits spent at that farmers market. So we're really talking about more money for our small and local farmers. It means the farmers market is more sustainable overall. It means more foot traffic and economic vibrancy in the community, and it's obviously a good thing for low-income communities as well. So we're talking about getting green in the pockets of those who need it most so that they can enjoy their daily greens. And I really want to appreciate Councilmember Huizar for his leadership in advocating for universal EBT at farmers markets. I want to thank Councilmember Martinez and all of the members of the Entertainment and Facilities Committee for moving this forward so quickly and thoughtfully. The Bureau of Street Services weighed in promptly and considered this well. So thank you for all of your leadership on this very important issue.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you very much, Claire. And next, I would like to ask Eric Arias, a community organizer for the Los Angeles Community Action Network, to say a few words. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you all. My name is Eric Arias of the Los Angeles Community Action Network, here along with many of my colleagues, just here to once again support this amazing opportunity that we're opening up to the vast majority of city of Los Angeles now. Like other speakers have said, this for us has been a no-brainer. Right, we have an opportunity here to make available fresh, healthy fruits and vegetables to those who have the resources in terms of EBT, but don't have the brick and mortar buildings that are and grocery stores that are very hard to come by in our neighborhoods. And so, particularly want to thank Councilmember Jose Huizar, and in particular his staff, who's been very wonderful in helping us shepherd this through committee here today, and say that it's very, very great. Speaking as an organization who is in Council District 14, that, this is one of the most diverse districts in the city of Los Angeles, and to have an opportunity to pass a piece of legislation that benefits everybody and that uplifts the health and the well-being of all our residents, particularly those on the lower income spectrum, is something we should all be proud of, and an example of how we can move policies together forward that work for all of us. I got time, sorry.
Don't mind that.
Oh, I'm used to getting cut off. So again, props to all of you all. Props to Councilmember Huizar and his staff, and really proud of Los Angeles today that this is a piece of legislation and an ordinance that really benefits all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I know you come speak here a lot in public comment, so when it does buzz at other times you have, this time it didn't matter. Other times it does, but not this time. Thank you, Eric. I would also like to introduce Frank Tamborello from Hunger Action LA to say a few words. Welcome.
Thanks, Councilmember Huizar and all council members. And I want to add my voice and our voice of Hunger Action LA also to the universal commendations for Councilmember Huizar and the whole City Council for really establishing LA in the forefront of food justice. Access to healthy food is something that shouldn't be restricted just for wealthy people, and EBT at farmers markets is one of the most powerful ways to advance it. I want to put in a few words about the Market Match program, especially for those who are concerned about how are we going to make sure that these EBT programs at markets are successful, because this is some of the resistance by some of the farmers markets, is they're wondering, will this be a success? We've had increases of 30 to 40% in EBT usage at the markets where we have Market Match. The downtown program signs up about a dozen new participants every week in CalFresh and Market Match. And they're spending like $25 of CalFresh for each $10 of Market Match they get. So we're not looking at a subsidy, we're looking at an incentive. I also want to throw in a word for a large population that cannot get CalFresh, but that we are serving at any rate through Market Match, and that's the population getting SSI. All the SSI recipients, 750,000 in Southern California, are living under the poverty line at $889 a month and not allowed to get CalFresh. I would like to talk with members of the City Council about providing resources for the seniors and disabled for Market Match for the SSI recipients, because they are also not covered under the small federal stream that we actually access for Market Match as well. So again, another a great day, feather in the cap for everyone here behind me, and I particularly want to point out Dan and Susanna, who have been working diligently with us with Market Match at the Adams, Vermont, and downtown markets. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And as was mentioned, today we will be taking action on item number 2, which will make it mandatory for farmers markets throughout the city to accept EBT. And I want to thank the advocates behind me for bringing that idea to my office and for your support, colleagues. We will be voting on that a little bit later today. And this Tuesday, May 17th, I, along with our partners here, will bring a resource fair to the steps of City Hall for farmers markets throughout the city to sign up for the EBT machines. Machines, that's my Spanglish. I encourage all of you, I encourage and invite all of you to invite your farmers markets in your districts to come out to that day and get them some EBT machines. I would like to recognize the Southland Farmers Markets Association and Hunger Action LA for bringing the EBT program and Market Match to the historic Core Farmers Market. They were one of the first farmers markets in downtown to offer this service and have been incredibly successful. Blair Beston is here, and I want to thank her for taking this on and being one of the first. Welcome, Blair. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Southland Farmers Market for taking a chance on us. We were the first weekend farmers market on behalf of the residents, recognizing that we had so many low-income and market-rate residents that were underserved. All the markets were during the week, during the day. We were also the first at one time to offer EBT, recognizing the community that we wanted to serve. And I want to thank the council member for just helping us basically block off a street in downtown, which is not an easy thing to do on a regular basis. But it's been worthwhile, and we're very grateful. And I also want to thank Frank for bringing the Market Match program to us. We've actually beaten some records from what I understand, and I hope we continue to do so. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Blair. Thank you, Blair. So with that, I would
Mr. Huizar, I have a speaker on the queue, Mr. Cedillo.
Mr. President, I want to speak wholeheartedly in support of this program. It is one of the best programs that we have. You couple this with the Earned Income Tax Credit, and we begin to create a modicum of dignity and respect for poor people. I remember this significantly, and I want to bring this to your attention because you were part of this. You were part of this when we were first elected to the legislature. This came out of the Health and Human Services Subcommittee with Dion Aroner, Valerie Brown, myself. You were in the other budget committee. This is a program that we created from the state so that poor people could actually have access to good, healthy food. And so I'm very excited that some 15 years later that we could be here to make sure that it gets fully implemented and optimized at the maximum. And so I thank you for your leadership, and I wanted to bring that to your attention, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly support this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to just thank the advocates for your hard work on this very important issue. We had a press conference at our farmers market yesterday, and it was just exciting to see the renewed interest and the real support from the EBT and other programs that really provide healthy foods at a reasonable price in areas that sometimes don't get it. And so we just appreciate those efforts. I'm looking forward. I'm going over, of course, at our farmers market, we have a healthy eating component every day, every Thursday, that's well attended. And this afternoon, I'm going over to the Alba Center over at Pueblo del Rio, and we're having a cooking class over there. I hope it becomes a regular part of the feature. So again, congratulations on your work. Congratulations on the advocacy. And know that it is making a difference in the lives of people who need it most. Thank you.
Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Huizar, I want to thank you for bringing these advocates and shining a light on this program. It's very, very important to all of us here on the council. Food, unfortunately, in our country remains one of the big civil rights issues. Unevenness in availability leads to very real health outcomes that actually shorten people's lives who are poor. And so we really appreciate you all for taking a social program and drilling down and actually finding out what the barriers are between poor people and healthy food. And this program all over the city, especially in South LA, is making a big difference. Young people who, I've witnessed young people who've never actually had an organic, fresh off the vine piece of fruit in their lives sit there in amazement at the very taste and feeling of it. And so again, thank you all for all you've done on this program, and look to us for support to move it forward.
Mr. Huizar to close.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And with that, I want to present some certificates of recognition to a few of the organizations who have been supportive of this. First, to the Southland Farmers Market. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. To Hunger Action LA, thank you so much. Gracias. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And to the Historic Core Farmers Market, thank you so much. And to all the organizations who have been supportive of this, we have a resolution signed by all the members of this horseshoe in honor of Cal Fresh Awareness Month. Thank you very, very much for all your work you do for all Angelenos, no matter where they come from in the walk of life. So thank you so much. Mr. President, and again, I want to thank these individuals for doing some marvelous work out there. They're bringing ideas to us about what else we can do to support people who are in need of food generally, but also in need of healthy food. So doing tremendous work out there. Thank you all very much for your work.
Well, you know what, Mr. Huizar, why don't we do something a little special? Since you're right from where you are, why don't we take up item 2? Okay. I think there's a direct connection. Let's let the advocates be part of this vote.
Okay.
So, Mr. Huizar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, as I mentioned, this item before us today is fitting that we do it on Cal Fresh Awareness Month, and to honor the great work that the departments, organizations, nonprofits, and volunteers do every day to ensure they're leading the way for healthy food access across our city. The city of Los Angeles has many neighborhoods that are food deserts, where it is difficult to find fresh and healthy food. Local farmers markets are a great way of bringing fresh produce into these communities. Neighborhoods facing food desert conditions are predominantly low-income communities, and studies have shown that these same communities suffer a disproportionate burden of chronic diseases related to obesity and poor diet. Increased access to fresh fruits and vegetables through farmers markets can help alleviate diet-related chronic conditions. No child should be denied access to foods that will benefit their health and ensure a strong and healthy life, no matter where in the city they live in. The CalFresh program improves the health and well-being of its recipients by providing them with a monthly allocation for food purchases. These benefits can be used to purchase food in locations that accept EBT cards. Only 47% of the 65 farmers markets within the city of Los Angeles accept EBT as a form of payments. We have an opportunity today to make one small change that will affect the lives of thousands of people. By making the acceptance of EBTs at farmers markets mandatory, we ensure equal access to fresh foods throughout farmers markets, no matter which part of the city a family lives in. I would like to thank Councilwoman Martinez for spearheading this through her committee. I would also like to thank the Los Angeles Community Action Network and the Los Angeles Food Policy Council for being a great partner and a resource throughout this. I also want to thank the Bureau of Street Services and the Department of Building and Safety for helping us find a way to enforce this new policy. Today, we will be asking the city attorney to come back with an ordinance that would make it mandatory for all farmers markets, whether on private or public property, accept EBT and help bring fresh food to our communities. I strongly urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote?
11 ayes.
That is approved. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for bringing item number 2 with the presentation and made it all that more effective. Thank you very much.
I agree. Okay, again, congratulations. Okay, we're going to, if you guys would follow Mr. Huizar, we're going to go to item 13. Item 13, I have a Mr. June Dyes, followed by Sean Murphy. Mr. Murphy, item 13, by Mr. June Dyes.
Yes, item 13, I am supporting this.
Thank you. Okay, again, Mr. June Dyes, I don't see him. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Mr. Harris Dawson, were you prepared to move forward with your presentation?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members. As you know, many of you may know, May is National Foster Care Month. May is National Foster Care Month. And today we want to welcome and recognize the National Foster Youth Institute. Founded by the visionary Congresswoman Karen Bass, NFYI envisions a nation where all children thrive in a safe and loving family, and the child welfare system serves as a beacon of hope for families in need. They work to transform the child welfare system and vastly improve outcomes for foster youth by empowering the youth and their families to build a grassroots movement, uniting advocates in all 435 congressional districts across the United States, and partnering with committed policymakers. NFYI has taken the approach that very few organizations have the courage to do in the climate of Washington, D.C. today. They work across the aisle with Republicans, Democrats, and independents to create positive policies that will impact child welfare laws. NFYI takes the position that the foster care system impacts everyone. When the government takes a child away from their family, that child becomes the children of all of us. And so we must take responsibility for them. NFYI also organizes shadow days in congressional offices to offer foster youth the opportunity to learn about the legislative process, while elected officials get the opportunity to hear face-to-face the personal stories of youth who are experiencing the child welfare system. My staff was lucky enough to have 2 different young people shadow me this term, Vivian Session and Lawrence Winston, who you'll hear from Lawrence a little bit later. We've also had the pleasure of meeting John A. Rivers, a formerly homeless youth, whose unique story and voice are powerful and add to the urgency we feel to impact homelessness. These young people have all have the potential to drive to be successful, and through our shadow days, we've seen how bright their futures can be. Yet we also understand the very certain hurdles that they will face. With the advocacy of NFYI and policies at every level of government, we can ensure that foster youth and their families have the resources they need to overcome these obstacles. Today, I'm asking the members to join me in supporting 2 motions that we'll put forward, one to support AB 1840 and the other to support AB 1067. These are votes in our state legislature that will improve outcomes for foster youth in our state, and particularly here in Los Angeles. I want to invite up one of the folks that shadowed me, who's just an inspiration and represents all the best that foster children can be in our community. Let's welcome Lawrence Winston.
Hello, yes, good morning. Well, I was in the foster system for 17 years, pretty much my whole life. I was always told that I couldn't achieve. I was told I was an idiot. My mom was on drugs 30 years of her life. She's now off. I got my degree from Cal State Dominguez Hills 2 years ago. Yes, right. It took me 7 years, and like I always had to be my own motivation being told that I couldn't make it. There's a stigma for foster youth that we're not going to achieve. There's 1% of foster youth that actually graduate from college. So I took that and I flipped it. And I got as much volunteer experience with CYC. I did anything that could push me out to make me stand out. And with the Shadow Day, I was able to come and feel welcomed. And policy is everything. And to come from my background and to be able to be involved with policy, I feel I have empathy and I have a rational outlook on how to be able to enact change. And I would love to be a part of District, I apologize. I love to be a part of District 8 movement to enact change for foster youth. I'm looking to go to SC for my master's in social work. I've interned. I've interned with the public affairs of DCFS. So like I said, I've tried to get involved in everything that I can, knowing that I've come from a system or a mind frame to where it's underachieved. So I want to be able to provide upward mobility to any foster youth that's out there, any former foster youth that's out there. And I just want to thank the entire staff of Marquise Harris for the pleasure and the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Well done, man.
And now we'll hear from Janae Rivers.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Janae Rivers. I'm 22 years old, and I was in the foster care system for 11 years. I didn't experience trauma until I was put into the system, so for me, my story is a little different. But I aged out at 21 and had battles with homelessness, and I had felt myself competing to get into a transitional housing where I shouldn't have to compete for. Why is it that I have to compete with other youth who are homeless just like me to have a bed to lay in? Homelessness is a very important problem with foster youth who age out the system after the age of 21. And if it wasn't for people like the National Foster Youth Institute giving me shadowing opportunities to shadow Karen Bass and to shadow public counsel and to really let my voice be heard, I don't think that I wouldn't even had the courage to really move forward and really continue to search for transitional housing. And just Marquise Johnson and Marquise Harris and people like him giving foster youth opportunity to speak up and be heard and let y'all know that we're out here and we do have a voice. I'm 22 and I'm the co-founder of a film festival. I've traveled to Africa. I traveled to Brazil, and I was homeless while I did this. I was sleeping on the couch, but I didn't give up, and I continue to fight just like every other foster youth that's out there. But we got to let y'all be able to hear us and let y'all know that not all of us are bad kids. We have hope, and we fight, and we want y'all to fight for us too. My name's Janae.
Thank you so much, Janae. Lastly, we will hear from Donna Brown-Guillaume, the Program Director of the National Foster Youth Institute. Donna?
Councilman Harris Dawson, City Council, and dear friends, thank you for giving the National Foster Youth Institute this much appreciated honor today. We could not do the work we do without our many sustaining partnerships. When Vivian Session, who couldn't make it here today, began her job shadow opportunity in your office, she sent me an email which said, in part, "The council member and the staff are awesome. I see my future sitting in front of me." That's a quote from an email. We know that creating a better future for all youth and working to transform the foster care system in our country is what NFYI is all about. We look to our community partners and those with lived experience in the foster care system to guide and influence us so we can help make the changes that will have the greatest impact on people's lives. With the support of City Council, the Mayor, the Board of Supervisors, and our stalwart, visionary board member, always fighting the good fight in Washington, D.C., Congressmember Karen Bass, and the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth, we believe we can achieve this future. Thank you, and thank you, Marquise.
Let's give them another big round of applause. Colleagues, we, as a city council, we don't have a direct role in foster care per se, but all of the issues we hold dear and we work hard to deal with, whether it's gang violence in Mr. Buscaino's committee or human trafficking, which Councilmember Martinez leads our struggle in, or homelessness, which we're all working on. The foster care system plays an integral role in all of those issues, and if we can help create the kind of foster care system we deserve, it helps us with all of those other issues we're working on. So I, again, ask all of you...
Why don't we get you to stick around for a second?
Okay.
Mr. Bonin, relax. I got you. I got you. Unbelievable program. And to the two of you young folk that spoke, I just have to say, well done. I know that you had to overcome all kinds of odds, and just to look at you, I think, warms all of our hearts. We wish you much continued success in the future, and if there's anything that we can do to help, maybe help you get into USC or what have you, please don't hesitate to talk to this council. We want to try to get you where you want to be. And again, Marquise, even though we don't have a technical hands-on role, we do have a soapbox, and we can, make sure that this message is heard. And then also, I think that those of us who were not in the foster care system, it makes us appreciate what we did have, and it sensitizes us to the things that you did not. And so, again, you were very impressive. I have no doubt you're going to be successful. I'd like to now recognize Mr. Mitch Englander.
You hear the numbers. 4,000 kids every single year age out of foster. Half of that, 50%, 2,000, end up on the streets or homeless within 2 years. You've overcome odds, but those aren't statistics. They're people. I'm not going to go through my family history, but I've had the first-hand experience of being on the opposite end of that spectrum as well. And a lot of ups and downs, and people today are struggling more and more. There's so much need. To say we don't have a role in it, we do, because you're doing it. I've got a colleague and many who are so involved. And it takes a village. We've got to do more, and we've got to participate at a younger age. We've got to make sure that the tools are there and you don't just age out and then try to find opportunities. We've got to start working with kids in foster care at a very young age. Not as recent as 12, but 0 to 5, the first 5. It's just recently come to 21. It was at 18. But even then, the skill sets aren't there. The fact that you two emerging leaders, and let me just tell you, that articulation was beautiful. It was poetry. It was inspiration for so many. But the system has gotten so bad it is broken. It's gotten to a point where now those foster kids and those at-risk youth are being preyed upon with human trafficking, preyed upon with so many horrible things that are happening. And these are our children in our communities, our own families. You two are an inspiration, and so many like you. But we have to do more, so much more. We're not even scratching the surface. We're at the beginning. It's happening in every community, and I just wanted to rise and say thank you so much for Sir Harris Dawson for bringing our future leaders forth and showing what we can do, that there are people that go through those struggles and emerge victorious, as to be truly inspirations for all of us, not just those in the system that's broken. And so thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I got a little choked up over this one. As a foster dad myself, I can't tell you how grateful I am, Marquise, for doing this presentation, to the Institute for the work you do, and Lawrence and John A. It was moving and inspirational to hear you. I got to spend last Sunday morning at a Foster Mother's Day event that the Pritzker Foundation put on, and I was surrounded by my foster child and hundreds of other foster children. And you look around and you wonder how everybody's going to turn out. And to see how you turned out is so inspiring. The foster system, as so many have indicated, is so fundamentally broken in so many ways. And I'm glad for your advocacy to fix it. And I'm glad for Janae and Lawrence for your example of how folks can come out of that whole and strong and better and successful. One thing the foster system needs is more parents. There is a tremendous, horrible shortage of foster parents in Los Angeles County. The number of foster families, people willing to be foster parents, has gone down by about half over the past 10 years. And every foster case starts with a tragedy, and when there can't be a place for a kid to go, that tragedy is just doubled. So I just can't thank you enough. It was really a very inspiring presentation. I'm also happy at any time, as often as you want, to have someone shadow me. And we're happy to recruit others to do the same. Thank you.
Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to say anything, but when I heard one of you say, well, we want you to know that we're not all bad in the foster system, I do want to say it's quite remarkable that you've been so successful in a system that is not really skewed towards success. But I don't think the people that aren't as successful as you are bad either. I think we have a system that's terribly flawed. And the fact that we drop so many people and that it's a pipeline into crime and it's a pipeline into homelessness because we don't handle folks properly at the end of the day is just a terrible tragedy. And it also makes no sense. It would cost us less to make sure that everybody has a good landing and the right training and are a pipeline to success than it does to have thousands of more homeless youth and thousands of more people that have no skills and turn to crime and wind up being trafficked and all the terrible problems. And I know Karen Basswell, we served in the legislature together. When she got there, the minute she got there, she was focused on trying to correct this terrible tragedy and to improve the foster system. And she made some modest progress, but this is such a thorny issue and it's been so difficult. It's absolutely something we have to address. But right now it's so difficult to emerge victorious and successful through the foster system. So I give you as much acclaim as I possibly could for those of you who are here and have been successful and have really made it. But hopefully 10 years from now or 20 years from now, I hope you don't stand out. I hope that you are more the model that the foster care system should be. So I commend you for what you've done, and thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson, for bringing this forward as well.
Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to rise in support for Councilman Harris Dawson for this amazing presentation today. You know, having worked at the county, having worked with DCFS and the foster care system, it is so refreshing to see our beacons of joy. And, you know, I rise in support with and acknowledge people like Councilman Bonin who are foster parents. I mean, they are doing such a great service. And I just wanted to add, we have a huge shortage of foster parents. But more importantly, you know, there's a statistic where if a child after the age of, I believe, 6 or 7, if they don't get adopted by that age, they stay in the system. So it's not just that we have a shortage of foster care parents, but for older children, it's almost an impossibility. And, you know, what you talked about, transitional age youth, I think that is one of the most key pivotal areas that we need to focus on. With Councilman Harris Dawson's leadership in the Homeless Committee, you know, city is committed. We are all committed. And Housing First model is something that we all abide by. And I am so proud to stand in support with the LGBT Center in my district, which we are creating permanent supportive housing for transitional age youth with focus on homeless transitional age youth. So that is one area that we have the ability to catch before they become homeless. But I really thank and to hear your inspiring stories. I thank you, Councilman Harris Dawson, and I look forward to seeing more positives. Thank you.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to just salute my colleague, Marquise Harris Dawson, for his leadership on this issue, and the leadership of the young people who are here demonstrating what's possible. We know it's, you've overcome a number of odds and all kinds of obstacles, but you haven't given up. And so you are a source of inspiration not only to other foster youth, but to all youth and adults, showing showing what is possible. So we just want to thank you. The issue of foster youth and homelessness is unfortunately combined. Certainly in my district, the numbers are up. And I'm told a large portion of that homeless population increase is youth, and so foster youth. And so we want to do all we can to make sure resources are available, that you have access, and that you know that we love and we care for you. So keep up the good work.
Mr. Harris Dawson to close.
Thank you so much, members, for your warm and kind words and great support of the young people that are with us today. And I just want to point out that not only can we deal with a lot of the challenges, whether it's gang violence, trafficking, or homelessness, by working to improve our foster care system, we can take leaps and bounds. The young person who's going to figure out trafficking or figure out traffic on our freeways might be a foster youth that just needs somebody to tell them to stay in school and to give them a little support and to realize their full potential. And so I think it's very, very important. I want to point out before we give the presentation, the staff of the National Foster Youth Institute is here today. So if any of you want to have a shadow experience with a foster youth, you can connect with them today. We'll be in the back taking pictures. We did it. They do all the work. All you have to do is show up and hang out with a cool young person. So I'm a strong advocate of it. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And one more big round of applause for the National Foster Youth Institute and our young people today.
So before I go to Mr. Buscaino for a very important presentation, we're going to jump to item 4. So if I could call for Mr. Murphy and Ms. Ramirez and Mr. Walsh on item 4, please come forward.
I am supporting this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Ramirez, if you need to get up here. Mr. Walsh, if you're speaking. Ms. Ramirez passes. Thank you. Mr. Walsh, item 4.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Again, when it comes to REAP, you do an excellent job with properties, and we let people know here that they must pay their taxes, and if they don't pay their taxes, they'll end up here in City Hall. And we see a number of cases, $41,000 in unpaid assessments. Again, when you do a good job, I am the first to congratulate you. I'm not one of those angry old Trump white guys. You're all a bunch of crooks. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Buscaino, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please help me welcome to the John Ferraro Council chambers the members, board members of the Watts Gang Task Force celebrating 10 years of service to our Watts community. The Watts community has long been plagued with violence. In December of 2005, the violence escalated to over a 31-day period. There were 18 gang-related shootings resulting in 7 homicides, and the community stood together and said enough was enough. Something had to be done. And then LA Councilwoman Janice Hahn called a meeting with community-based leaders, the Los Angeles Police Department, school representatives, service providers, gang intervention workers, a number of city departments to see together how they can stop the violence. The Watts Gang Task Force was born. Since that first meeting in January of 2006, the task force has met every Monday in Council District 15's Watts field office, every week addressing the various issues facing the community. The group has overcome a number of long-time problems in the community, but perhaps our most significant accomplishment has been building a trusting relationship between the community and the Los Angeles Police Department. During the early meetings of the task force, it was clear that there was a long history of mistrust between the community and the police department and its officers. This mistrust was only fueling the violence in Watts. But today, after many hard hours, community members are working hand in hand as one family, one community, with the police department to solve and prevent crime in the Watts community. And here's an amazing fact, that over the course of the last 10 years since its inception, collectively between the police department and the Watts Gang Task Force and the community, we have seen a reduction of 60% in violent crime in the Watts community today. Let's give that a round of applause. We measure the success because of this commitment from the Watts Gang Task Force and the LAPD. And I also have to mention Mr. Eric Brown's here representing the Housing Authority. Joel's here as well. HACLA has been a key partner in this success as well. Working with the Los Angeles Police Department, the Watts Gang Task Force, the Watts Gang Task Force was a catalyst toward the creation of new guidelines to allow reformed young men and women to be removed from gang injunctions. Today, individuals are being removed and are working to build productive lives in Los Angeles. And for those who don't believe that you can be removed out of a gang injunction, go to 103rd Street to Local, Watts' newest restaurant, where you see former gang members working, providing for the families, and putting food on the table, not only for the community, but also at their homes as well. Growing up in Watts can be difficult. In fact, students often stay home from school because they fear encountering gangs. Focused on keeping kids safe while getting to and from school, the Watts Gang Task Force were instrumental in supporting a safe passage program for kids attending Jordan Down High School and Markham Middle School. The creation of the Watts Gang Task Force has brought unprecedented resources and attention to the community on not only a local, regional stage, but also on a national stage. Not only do they have the undivided attention and partnership of Council District 15, the Watts Gang Task Force meetings have been attended by a number of key leaders in our community, including Chief Beck, Mayor Garcetti, and many other notable leaders. While the Watts Gang Task Force has been recognized and honored for its numerous accomplishments, its core mission continues to be stopping the violence. It served as a model all over the city and beyond. There's still work to be done, but the progress seen in Watts over the past 3.5 years is proof that working together we can combat gang violence. There definitely is hope. The Watts Gang Task Force is not just a task force. It's a community, a loving community that has banded together for many years. It's been the centerpiece of the Watts community. It's a place where voices are heard and a place where you can speak freely and openly about what is happening in the community on a weekly basis. And it's also a place where people gather to pray together. Pray together. They also, I know it oftentimes been emotional at times. We've cried together, we've laughed together, and we have seen the overall success of this task force due largely in part of the commitment of these individuals alongside our key law enforcement partners. Now, as we know, colleagues, oftentimes we're responsive to some of the key issues facing our respective council districts, and what we do is what? We form a task force. And as we know, task force comes and go, right? But not this task force. 10 years, stronger than ever, Mr. President. And we've seen the amazing success. We owe a debt of gratitude to their commitment, their resiliency, and their love for the Watts community. So help me welcome Housing Authority Commissioner Hooper to say a few words.
All right, let's give her a round of applause. It's always a pleasure to see you, dear.
Good morning, council members. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here today. And when we started 10 years ago, there was a lot of doubt in the community about what the Watts Gang Task Force will be able to do. But I'm standing here today to tell you that we have really been working hard in the Watts community to bring peace in that community and to reduce the crime. And my seniors that live in the senior public housing authorities and the seniors that live around the community of Watts, they are more safer now than they was 20 years ago. That's right. And I would just like to say that when we first got started, it was a lot of doubt about what the Watts Gang Task Force could do. But we have stood together, we have prayed together, and when you pray together and ask God to help you in your community, he will come in and help you do what you want to do. Right. And with Council Janice Hines was here, that was our first step. And now we have Councilman Joe. I'm not going to mess his name up. I'm just going to say Councilman Joe.
I just call him Steve. I just call him Steve.
I'm going to call him Joey B. And to see the work that he has been doing with us, I really appreciate it. And for the first time, April the 1st, 2016, we had our first big celebration. It was called the Black and White Celebration of the Watts Gang Task Force. And we held it right there in Watts at WLCAC in Phoenix Hall. And it was a great success. Yes. And I'm sorry you didn't come out, Mr. Weston, but you was invited.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll make the next.
Oh, you was there in spirit.
In spirit, of course.
And the mayor has been with us, and I'm just proud to be here today. I think I'm the oldest member on that board, but I'm thankful to be here to speak today about the Watts Gang Task Force. And thank you very much.
Well, no, thank you. It's always, Mr. Buscaino, a pleasure. And I want to just say this as we move on. This task force means a lot. And we are trying to show the utmost respect to you from this council. So I'm going to say it. Mr. Herman, you give a fake or phony laugh, I am going to remove you from this chamber. This is serious business. With that said, I'm returning it to you, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just know, I know you weren't at the big gala, Mr. President, but I know you have supported the Midnight Basketball program and started in your district.
Yes, it did.
And supported it in Watts as well. So really appreciate your support moving forward. As we all know, Dr. Perry Crouch is no stranger to these council chambers. He has advocated for the Watts community, for boys and girls in our district and beyond. Help me welcome Dr. Perry Crouch to say a few words. We might have to give him 2 minutes. He'll be up here 15 minutes because he's so passionate.
Now, listen,
not today.
We'll watch him, but Dr. Perry Crouch helped start the Midnight Basketball League in my district, and he works throughout the county of Los Angeles, not just in Watts. And we in the 10th District appreciate your service, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. My good friend Gil Cedillo, it's always a pleasure, brother. We go a long ways back. Mr. Price, It wasn't easy. It was violence. You know, even going back, because I was there in the 65 uprising, the mistrust with law enforcement. But on that, started on Christmas Eve in 2005, man, our kids didn't have a Christmas. And that was like a really a bad spot where kids couldn't even enjoy Christmas. And we said enough is enough. Now, we're never going to allow our children to experience this tragedy again. So we just came together and we said, no, violence is unacceptable. If you guys got issues, y'all got to talk about it, but just killing people's, and the cold part about the 18 people and the 7 people that were murdered, they were innocent people. And so we just put our heads together, called Janice, told her, we know you got those razors coming by your desk. Come on now, you got to. Then she just told us, I really don't know what to do. So what she did, she assembled everybody. And she brought law enforcement, and we kind of like, wait a minute. And then she said, look, it's got to be a partnership. We got to create a partnership to work together. And we created that partnership. And I'm so glad that we was able to create that partnership because it gave us a different outlook looking at law enforcement. And we look at law enforcement as our referees. In every sport, you have a referee. And the referee is to keep things decent and in order. And we run on three principles. Accountability. We hold each other accountable and also our elected officials. We run on respect. We respect our elected officials, and we respect law enforcement, and we respect them to respect us, and commitment. We're committed to saving life, not taking life. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Perry.
Thank you, Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do need to recognize Amada Tingrides, Sergeant Amada Tingrides, overseeing the Community Safety Partnership Program at each of our developments in Watts. Recently,
she's one of the best. Let's give her a round of applause.
They were
She's one of the
invited
best
by
we
President
have.
Obama's administration. Her husband, Commander Tingrides, was one of the First Lady's guests at the State of the Union address. And the President at the time emphasized the importance in a time when this country is struggling with the police-community relationships beyond this city. They have turned to Watts. They have turned to this city and recognized how far we have come. As a police agency, as a community, that's a blessing to know that it's happening here in Los Angeles, that community-based policing is alive and well. And this group has really embraced the basic tenets of community policing as it relates to problem solving and partnership. So with that, let me, on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, thanks, Eliana. I want to recognize John Jones, our rock star deputy representing Watts. You'll see John Jones this Sunday at Ciclavia in Watts. We've been asking Metro to bring Ciclavia. Thanks, Mr. Bonner Krikorian, for blessing that this Sunday. That's another plug. I appreciate your work, JJ. And the Watts Gang Task Force will be ever present this Sunday, 103rd. It's going to be an incredible event. We're going to reopen our City Hall. So with that, the Watts Gang Task Force, on behalf of the City, Council President Mayor Garcetti, and all the City Council and the City family, recognize Watts Gang Task Force celebrating 10 years of partnership and crime reduction in the Watts community. We love you.
And Mr. Buscaino, as you guys are taking photographs, I'd like to recognize Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I just want to rise and congratulate, thank, hug, and praise the Watts Gang Task Force. It's such a gift to the city of Los Angeles and a gift to the country. Folks in our hometown are showing the country how community policing can be done and should be done. And so we're just very, very excited for what you all have done. And we ask you to keep up the good work and count on us for all the support you can get. We're in budget season, so we're looking at a lot of numbers now. And even though you don't like to talk about it this way, one of the things we found out is every homicide in the city of LA cost us about $8.5 million. That's just what we pay. This is not to mention the loss of human life, which cannot be quantified. And so you all are doing tremendous work to not only make our city safe and help people live out their dreams, but to help make us solvent in the long run. So again, thank you for everything you've done, and thank you to Councilmember Buscaino for being such a huge champion.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I do want to just salute the Watts Gang Task Force and its pioneering work over the years, not just in Watts, not just in Southern California, but really recognized nationally for involvement, for inclusion, and really putting some real teeth into community policing in ways that we haven't before. So we just appreciate your efforts. Mr. Buscaino, obviously your leadership here has been extraordinary, and I appreciate your efforts, not only in your district, but really citywide as we work this out. I'm excited that we're going to get a CSP program in the Pueblos, building upon the strength of the projects that have occurred in other housing developments. So we're excited about that. Excited about a new level of engagement in partnership with the police, with the community, in ways that we haven't before. So keep up the good work. Congratulations, and we love your efforts. Don't stop now.
Mr. Buscaino, you can close it. In fact, one more round of applause. Thank you all.
Thank you. We love you guys. Let's go in the back. Grab your purses and belongings.
So as Mr. Buscaino goes to the back, we're going to move to item 7. Ms. Ramirez, please come forward. Leah Renee and Mr. Jundice. Sean Murphy, please come forward. Ms. Ramirez, item 7.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Item number 7. I hope that the California Coastal Commission that will be working with financial and planning assistance to fund Phase 3 of the local coastal program, I trust that you will collectively work with the United States Coast Guard, since they are the buffs, the experts when it comes to any and all coastal problems, dilemmas, and knowledge. It would be the United States Coast Guard, and I truly hope that you will embrace their suggestions, their guidelines, and their intelligence, because truly they are the brilliant whizzes of the coastals when it comes to anything and everything about the coast throughout the California and the country. But again, give the United States Coast Guard credit. Please embrace them. Please work with them. You can't get any better. They're the best in the world, the United States Coast Guard. And these buffs work hard, and they work great under the pressure, and they know the downturns and the upturns. So please, again, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, work with the United States military Coast Guards. I am so proud. My father worked with the United States Coast Guard. So again, please, let's make the coastal programs work. Let them be effective. Let them be long-lasting, and let them be productive and efficient and sustainable. Work with the United States Coast Guard and make Los Angeles even better, and make our coastal areas safe, secure, and protected, and thriving for the future, 21st and 22nd century. And again, God bless America, and God bless Donald Trump and the United States military.
You're off subject. Mr.
Thank
Murphy,
you. God
come
bless
forward.
America.
Leah Renee.
Yes, same here. I support this item. Support our Coast Guards.
Thank you. Do we have Miss Renee? Please come forward.
Hi, honorable council members. My name is Leah Renee. I am a stakeholder in the city of Los Angeles and in the state of California coastal zone. I'm here today because public officials and employees should not take persons' rights away without first telling them what rights they already have. But all too often, elected and public officials and employees deny the people access to their rights as guaranteed in city, state, and federal laws. The bad actors misrepresent, omit, obfuscate state false and misleading codes and regulations, which often causes people harm. Therefore, I've entered in today's council number 12.
Mr. President,
You
the
have to
speaker's not speaking to the
You have to speak to item 7.
I am. Therefore, I've entered
Ms.
into
Renee.
today's council file 12-1944-S4 the records for the local coastal program in the city of Los Angeles. You're denying them to the people, and they have the right to know what they are. There are 26 different public documents regarding the city of Los Angeles' local coastal program, which the city officials and public employees say they don't know. But here they are, so they cannot use willful blindness and say they didn't know later. Here they are. City of Los Angeles Ordinance 151603, California Public Resource Code, California Coastal Act 2016, California Coastal Commission Title 14, Division 5.5, all searchable online, the California City of Los Angeles Local Coastal Program approved by the California Coastal Commission, Regional Interpretive Guidelines, the map that nobody says that they have, here it is, it's all certified. Here's a tract map for one of the few neighborhoods that's built into the face of the coastal bluff, the state of California coastal bluff lines, and the local coastal program certified for Venice, and your California Supreme Court that's already been adjudicated. I have the appeals court for all of your records, and the United States Congress public law and all of the laws behind it. There's more. Please uphold people's rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, we're going to go to item 1. Mr. Akala and Mr. Walsh and Mr. Gus on item 1. I think I heard Mr. Walsh pass. I think.
Item 1. Final. I grabbed the wrong agenda, but don't worry. Item 1 is usually about taking people's homes through liens. Illegal, illicit, immoral, incredible liens because you left a little banana peel on your sidewalk, because we don't like the way your tree looks. We're going to take your house. We are City Hall. We do not represent the will of the people. We represent the will of the politicians. Who are the politicians? A special class. One of them is Donald Trump. Needs a Dodger dog up his ass.
Mr. Akala, get back on the...
the subject. Yeah, the subject is these illegal, immoral liens by means of which you take thousands and thousands of dollars away from homeowners. They spent years just acquiring a property, and you, in just a few sweeps of the pen, that's how you make your money. Just a few sweeps of the pen, you take away people's money through parking meters, through everything, through illegal liens, immoral liens. And you sit there sipping your coffee, enjoying your lunch, and saying to the people, we represent your best interest. Bullshit. You represent your own best interest, but not the interest of the people. We don't like you. You're a bunch of assholes taking our livelihood away.
Thank you.
That's what you are.
Thank you, Mr. Akala, Mr. Gus. Followed by Mr. Murphy, if you're still here. Followed by Mr. Herman.
1 minute only, please. 1 minute only. I have a surprise for City Council on this very issue. On Sunday morning, I will be on KFI AM 640 with Elizabeth Espinoza. And I will start telling the public, as a result of my City Watch LA articles, about, among other things, these abusive liens and how they are levied upon people unfairly and without due process. So for the people watching on Channel 35, let me reiterate, I will be speaking about this subject on Sunday on KFI AM 640 at 6 or 6:30 a.m. with Elizabeth Espinoza, and we will start telling people who don't watch city council meetings about what goes on here and how they are these liens are being inflicted upon people like the government of North Korea. 1 minute.
Mr. Murphy, followed by Mr. Herman.
Yes, item one, rent escrow. The landlords don't fix your properties. You don't pay the rent to them.
Okay, Mr. Herman.
One minute, please. 1 minute.
Now you see that the liens of the city are taking advantage of all of us. Is it unconstitutional to have liens processed against your property at a time of an economical crisis? Should homeless people be thrown out of their homes? That's what the liens and the purpose of the liens are for. Ask Jose Huizar. He'll tell you. The majority of you poverty pimps keep us out of our homes, right, Mr. Bloomfield? As you have a 2,000, 3,000, two-page lien here. So, Mr. Bloomfield, you offensive racist, take the liens off these poor people, let them have their damn home, and stop making homelessness an issue regarding liens. I close my time to 1 minute. And once again, Robin Hood is back. I hold my time to 1 minute.
Thank you. Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
We'll move on now to item 8, Mr. Walsh and Ms. Ramirez. And Mr. Gus, please come forward on item 8. Please come forward.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org, blogging there, blogging at J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dumbs. This is the biggest waste of money of all time. And it doesn't tell you how much money, but I believe it's $150,000. Relative to the funding for youth cooking classes at the Alba Center at Pueblo del Rio Housing Development. Wait a second. Yeah, how old? If you're 19, you're not allowed there? Look, we need to send this over to the criminal division of the DA. Youth cooking classes at Alba Center. What is this? Who cares? Youth cooking? Your streets are falling apart in a black neighborhood, and they have Jewish kids learning how to cook.
Ms. Ramirez, followed by Mr. Gus.
True, this is government waste and this is abuse. That kind of money, you could put out toilets for the homeless people. I say hell no. Instead of teaching these young youth cooking classes, why don't you teach them how to flush a toilet and some manners? Teach them how to behave, how to be accountable for right and wrong deeds. Teach them to be respectful of the elderly and teach them manners, how to behave in society, not be savages or uncivilized. And not to cut in line. Stand in line and be appropriate, be decent. Again, what are you going to do? Teach them how to cook enchiladas? Come on, man. Teach them proper manners. This truly is a waste of money, and we seem to be doing a lot of that in the city of Los Angeles. And again, these youths are very vulnerable. Instead of teaching them how to cook and burn themselves, teach them how to stay out of gangs. And Buscaino did a great job. Thank you, Councilman Buscaino. You're doing a great job by deterring gangs and showing us that you're actually doing something here with the youth. The youth are vulnerable. Times are hard.
topic.
So we ask you
Wander
to teach.
back on topic, Ms. Ramirez.
Again, cooking, yes. I'm sorry. I come from the old school, and my father would always kick my brothers out of the kitchen. He says, eso no es para viejas, eso no son para hombres, son puras viejas, out of here. So my father didn't want my brothers to learn how to cook. He goes, solamente para las viejas, afuera de la cocina. And thank God for that, because my father taught him how to be men. Anyway, having said that, again, let their parents teach them how to cook. Tell their parents, teach them how to cook, and we will, the city, teach us, these kids, how to stay out of gangs, how to stop killing people, how to stop farting all over the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Ms.
Or we'll get Donald Trump to teach them.
No,
Please,
you're
God
off
bless
subject.
America.
Thank you.
Stay on the
Thank
subject.
you. Come
Stay on the
forward,
subject.
Mr. Gus, followed by Mr. Herman, followed by Mr. Dude.
It's 1 minute only. It's funny to hear Mr. Wesson look forward to calling me as the next speaker. I'm all in favor of a program like this, but my problem is that you're doing it hypocritically. And I will be speaking about this issue and others on Sunday on KFI, AM 640, this Sunday morning with Elizabeth Espinoza. There's a hypocrisy here because constantly when we watch City Council, we see Mr. Bonin speaking with Candy. We constantly see Mr. Kokori.
Stay on the subject.
I am giving
more
examples of how
Daniel.
your dietary habits are hypocritical to this item. City Attorney, I'm talking about their bad health habits on a health issue. That's what Mr. Wesson does, like North Korea. Mr.
No,
Wesson,
you're not on the
Mr.
subject,
Wesson,
Daniel. Stay
I
on
am
the
talking
subject.
about this is a health and dietary issue. Now, please let me make my point.
If you stay on the subject, I will.
I make my point. I want my 10 seconds back, City Attorney. Can I have my 10 seconds to make my point?
Your time is done. Thank you. Mr. Dude. Mr. Dude, come forward. Mr. Gus, please move away from the podium.
To be called, and now you call me? What's going on? How come you
Come on,
jump?
stay on the subject. Come on.
The subject is cooking for young people. They don't need to learn how to cook. All they got to do is go to Alvera Street, and they'll teach them how to refry beans over there. So you don't need thousands of dollars from the city teaching a few kids how to cook. It is damn ridiculous. Why don't you do something useful? Huh? Teach them how to cook nopalitos. You know what nopalitos are? You don't even know, do you?
Stay on the subject.
I mean, we're talking about cooking for youth. Teach them how to cook nopalitos. That is the national food of Mexico. Because when you don't have anything else to eat, you got the cactus.
Okay, Mr. Alcala, thank you.
What do
okay,
you
Mr.
mean?
Herman, come on, Mr. Herman. No, come on, Mr. Alcala, stay on the subject. Come on, Mr. Herman. Your time has expired. Mr. Alcala, please, sergeants, help him find his seat. Mr. Herman, you have the podium.
All he's talking about is illegal.
No, you stay on the subject, okay?
I am. I'm right on topic, Mr. Speaker. It reflects here that the account 27410, Mr. City Attorney, will you correct me on that? Who in the hell cares? It's talking about El Del Rio housing development for what? Downtown LA services to learn how to cook. All you have to do is open up a can, pop open the beans, pour it into a pan, stir it up under a warm flame, and there it is. It's homeless protected food out of a can from Del Rio. But when we talk about cigarettes, that's offensive because the smell of cigarettes is not as offensive as food.
Stay on the subject, Mr.
It's not as
Herman.
offensive as food because food has a great aroma. But since you interrupt me,
Mr.
the hell with my time.
No, you're
I hold
off
my
the
time
subject
to
again.
1 minute.
Thank you.
1 minute.
Thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, we'll go now to item 12. On item 12, I have Mr. Gus, I have Mr. Herman, and I have Mr. Alcala.
1 minute only, please. 1 minute only. I will be speaking about this particular item this Sunday on KFI, AM 640, with Elizabeth Espinoza. So let's talk about this $407,000 to widen a street in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood, Sherman Oaks. I live in Sherman Oaks. Woodman Avenue below Ventura Boulevard splits into Benedict Canyon and Woodman, and it doesn't go to any canyon. So how about telling the people whose $407,000 this is, what is the purpose of widening a street on a residential street? Are you doing this for a developer? Because it's certainly not going to increase traffic flow, because Woodman below Ventura goes to Valley Vista. You're spending $407,000 to widen a road between Ventura Boulevard and Valley Vista? Tell us what's behind this corruption. 1 minute.
Okay, Mr. Herman.
1 minute only. As you will all know that Mr. Krikorian and Mr. Rule on this motion are subjecting us to a $407,000 for basically a boulevard change. Is it really necessary? Now, the city attorney wouldn't care because the motion deals with Rue and Krikorian. Not that Krikorian lives in Sherman Oaks or Sherman Way or whatever the hell way you go. But the bottom line is Wayne Spindler lives in Encino, which is a connecting city to the issue of this median change for $407. Got you thinking now, huh, Mr. City Attorney? That's what Robin Hood does. He makes you think
on
the
subject.
Issues involving relative funding for widening Woodman Avenue. I hold my time to 1 minute. Vote no for Mitch Englander for County Board Supervisor.
Thank you. You're off topic. Okay, Mr. Alcala.
I wish to speak only 1 minute because I know Ventura Boulevard. It's already too wide. What the hell are you doing? Who are you giving the money to? Ventura Boulevard is too wide. I drive it almost every day, and I ride it on my bike. I use Ventura Boulevard all the time, and there is nothing wrong with Ventura Boulevard the way it is. Leave it alone. Do not waste money on Ventura Boulevard. Take it to Watts or to some neighborhood that really needs it. You know how many streets are broken down that you can hardly ride a bike on the damn street? It's not Ventura Boulevard, believe me. They already got plenty. But yeah, you do that for rich neighborhoods. Fuck you.
All right.
1 minute. Fuck you for 1 minute.
All right, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Mr. Rue?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues.
Items 10 and 11,
10,
Mr. Rue. I'm
yes.
sorry, I didn't
Which
identify.
we're taking together. I wanted to be absolutely clear to my colleagues today where there are two motions before us. First matter before us is the rescission of the council action from April 1st, 2016. This motion today would rescind the council action of that day in order to address a Brown Act correction. This will then allow us to consider the next motion. The second motion is the rescission of Council Motion 14-1479, which was initiated by the prior council office. The original motion, introduced by the prior council office, instructed the planning department to initiate consideration of a proposed general amendment change, proposed general plan amendment, zone change, and height district change. There should have been a packet that went around that you guys could take a look at, which has the renderings of the development in question. The proposed 250-unit development sits at the center of an ecologically significant wildlife corridor and is adjacent to a two-lane Cahuenga Boulevard and the 101 freeway. The developer could have filed an application for the requested general plan amendment and zone change without a motion. and proceed to get input from the community, but that is not what he chose to take. The course that the developer and the previous council office chose to take was to introduce a motion without input from the affected communities to request a general plan amendment from the current minimum residential, which would allow for one single family home for each 40,000 square foot lot, to change to a medium residential, zone change, and height district change. The result is what you have sitting in front of you, which is the proposed 250-unit development at the center of a wildlife corridor and abutting the 2-lane street and an overly congested freeway. We have been notified that the developer has filed a complaint, and while the city attorney doesn't believe that there is any wrongdoing by this body's part, it was recommended that this matter be reheard as much as possible in open session. With that said, we have the opportunity today to have an open dialogue on this matter and receive community input. So with your consent, Mr. President, would it be possible if we could open for public comment on this matter and then hear from the city planning and the city attorney's office?
Certainly, Mr. Vrew. We have a number of public speaker cards. Daniel Savage, followed by Krista Michaels, followed by Fred Gaines.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Savage. I'm the president of the Hollywood Knolls Community Club, the residents association covering the neighborhoods of the Hollywood Knolls, the Hollywood Manor, and Lake Ridge Estates. The two vacant parcels detailed in the motion, parcels 5577-016-001 and 002, off of Cahuenga Boulevard adjacent to Lake Hollywood, are within the HKCC's boundaries. Similarly, I'm also the Area 1 chair of the Hollywood Hills West Neighborhood Council, and the parcels fall within Area 1. In August of last year, through Neighborhood Council, I was made aware of the City Council action of March 18, 2015, agreeing to changes in the current zoning and general plan amendment in order to facilitate a real estate development at 2864 Cahuenga. Shortly thereafter, I brought the issue to the board of the HKCC, which unanimously passed a motion that the City Council motion allowing the regulatory changes be rescinded. I then introduced a similar motion to the Neighborhood Council, which also passed it unanimously. Anyone with even a casual knowledge of the proposed project's area can easily understand that with 250 apartments and parking for 600 cars, it's grossly inappropriate for the neighborhood and would surely exacerbate the already near gridlock traffic conditions, strain infrastructure resources, and compromise the existing wildlife corridor. The fact that the project was set in motion with literally zero community input is not only inappropriate but fundamentally insulting. The lots are currently zoned for single-family homes and 40,000 square foot lots. If a developer would like to build homes under those current regulations, then we should follow the standard accepted process for that development. But there's absolutely no compelling reason why an exception should be made in this case, which would allow this type of one-off zoning. I therefore request that the Council vote in favor of Councilmember Rew's motion to rescind the prior Council action of March 18, 2015.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Krista Michaels, followed by Fred Gaines, followed by Eric Previn.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. When I saw the application for the project at 2864 Cahuenga Boulevard East, to which these motions relate, I almost burst out laughing. And the reason why is because I saw on the application that after the community impact statement spot, it said none submitted. Well, no lie. None submitted because no one in the community knew anything about this project. There was no community impact statement because none of us were told anything about this project. None of the usual procedures were followed. The same organizations, property owner, homeowner, neighborhood council, local condo associations have all been in place for many, many years with basically the same leadership. Everyone knows who we are. Developers have worked with us for years. The usual procedure of the developer and the council office contacting us and arranging for a meeting, sitting down together, talking about a project, all of these were completely short-circuited. I think it's entirely appropriate to dial back to the beginning of this project and start over. First of all, to consider what should be built there, if anything. This is an extremely sensitive corridor. Traffic is a major problem. Access not just to homes and businesses, but also it's a primary corridor between the city, Hollywood, downtown, and the San Fernando Valley. In case of emergencies, this is a very, very important location to consider. So I think it's entirely appropriate to do exactly what Councilmember Ryu has proposed, which is to start over again, bring in all of the communities that should have had input from the beginning, and reconsider what should, if anything, should be built there. Thank you.
Mr. Gaines, followed by Mr. Previn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honorable members, Fred Gaines of Gaines & Stacy on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Ben Farrat. Thank you for having me here today. A little ironic that the motion that you're asked to rescind was adopted on April Fool's Day, and we're here to rescind it and possibly redo it on Friday the 13th. But that does point out at what's at issue here, which is the process of the city. You've heard that this is the improper process. In fact, what's happened here is exactly the appropriate process of the city. Last year, after 3 committee hearings, a motion was initiated, went to 2 hearings of the General Services Committee, public hearings. There was public testimony on both sides at these hearings. There was a Plum Committee hearing, came back to this council in March to initiate a plan amendment. That is how plan amendments are initiated in the city of Los Angeles, by council action, commission action, or planning director. Applicant cannot apply for one. It has to be initiated that way. It was initiated in that way. At that time, the application was started. Our client went to the neighborhood council. There was opposition. But the other thing that's happened over the past year, we're now in May of 16. This was started in by the council process ended with the motion in March of 15, is that my client has spent $400,000 on architecture, civil engineering, and preparation of environmental documents, which are now ready to go to the EIR process. What you're being asked to do, you've heard testimony today about why they don't like the project, that it's a wildlife corridor, that there's too much traffic. How do we do that? We get an environmental analysis, we have a scoping meeting, we put out an EIR, we get public comment, we go through that process, and we make those decisions. You're being asked to make the decision now and dump this application at this point, leaving my client to hold that bag. This is being rushed through you. I know that many of you are uncomfortable with this process, and you should be. At the very least, this motion should go back to the Plum Committee and get a full hearing, not limited to the 2 minutes that I have here today. But I ask you carefully to think about the appropriate process in this case and ask you to follow it. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Previn, and then if I could get Mr. Murphy and then Mr. Herman. Mr. Murphy passes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. It is Eric Previn on item 10 and 11, and this is a very interesting subject, obviously. The 2 parcels off Cahuenga, the neighborhood councils and the community say they were not properly noticed. This tracks with City Hall's ordinary conduct. And during the changing of the guard, when Mr. Ryu took over, he wisely responded to the community and has proposed this kind of a change. What interested me was I remember the day, I think it was April 1st, in Van Nuys, when this hallowed body went into the back room for a closed session on the idea of a litigation. And I read the document by the attorney, Mr. Gaines, and what he's alleging is that it's impossible that you were talking about litigation for a full hour and a half and that there must have been something else. And he's requested that they hold the recordings such that it's called spoliation. You don't destroy the records, which of course in this body, well, we are talking about Labanja's district, so we have to be a little cautious. But in general, that's not happening on a regular basis. So I would ask you to hold that stuff. And the question is, because I remember it was an interesting moment, when you came out, Fuentes bravely stood up and tried to roar down Mr. Ryu's action. And Mr. Ryu, I thought wisely, said, let's just go to the vote. And at the time I thought, what a clever guy, because he knows he has the votes, and he won. But then in retrospect I thought about it, and I thought, boy, I would have loved to have heard the dialogue and the discussion among our council members, because here in this hall, sir, thanks to your esteemed leadership, we rarely hear any dialogue about these controversial developments in our areas. And that is, in fact, what is entirely wrong and why I ran for the neighborhood council seat in my district and why people across the city are frustrated by the process at City Hall where it's widely understood that you lose when the city wants to do something and you have to go to court. This puts Mr. Gaines in business, and he also represents Mr. Weintraub and others. So the problem, sir, is what are you doing? We have I'm on 10 and 11. Isn't that 2 items?
No, the city attorney said you had veered. I'm asking you to veer back.
Veer back where, sir?
No, on the subject. Thank you, Mr. Previn. So if I can get Mr. Hunt, Mr. Walsh, Mr. Gus. Mr. Gus, you're there, so you can come. Mr. Herman, I called you as well. Go right ahead, Mr. Gus.
Gus, thank you. This is an interesting story that I'm just learning about, and I may speak more about it this Sunday on KFI AM 640 when I will be Elizabeth Espinosa's guest. Now, I thank Mr. Rue for doing the right thing. If something bad happened, start correcting it. So kudos to Mr. Rue. But the problem is you guys violate the Brown Act 3 times a week when you have these meetings. And I guess the question is, if you did violate the Brown Act, why do you have to say, well, we think that we're in the right, but you're not doing it out of a benevolent act. You're doing it because you were sued. You're doing it because you violated the rights of people who can afford a lawyer. You do this all the time. And if you do this for one Brown Act violation, you need to treat all Brown Act violations fairly, which you do not. So regarding rescinding the actions, you should definitely not just rescind both of them, but start with a clean slate. I don't think any council member would want another multifamily unit on a single family lot in their neighborhood. If Mr. Weston would like that, could he please raise his hand and say, yeah, build this kind of thing on my road, or build it in Chatsworth on Rainbow Ridge Road. We know who lives there. I guess the issue is, why would you do this to anybody? I mean, it's stupid enough to do it to people who can afford attorneys to sue you, but don't act like it's a benevolent act that you're doing this. You're doing it because you were sued. You should stop doing it to everybody. Stop violating the Brown Act, whether or not the people you're harming are wealthy or middle class or poor. I will be on KFI on Sunday with Elizabeth Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. And then after you, Mr. Hunt is already there. So go ahead.
Woo! Let's start over. You heard, we must rescind. We must rescind. And let me emphasize, rescind and start over. You continue to violate the Brown Act, 54950. All content of the 54950. Ralph M. Brown Act. Where's the transparency you always question us about here? Are you not aware of that, public? Are you not aware? That's why we come in here so hard. NWA style. Niggas with attitude.
Stay on the subject.
Because we don't want current regulations to change. We want Mr. Rue's regulations to change this bullshit development system you have. That's right, Herb. You're fucking what a system that should be in better effort for us all. Not behind closed doors, not hiding from the public the truth. Start over regarding the Lake Hollywood parcel. And again, what did Mr. Gus say? 54950. You silence us by censorship to respond on behalf of the public. You kick us out of meetings to respond
You're
to
off
items
subject.
10 and
Thank
11
you, Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, your time's expired. Mr. Hunt, Mr. Herman, you're disrupting the meeting. Your time is... Sergeants, I've warned him 3 times. Sergeants, remove Mr. Herman because you're disrupting the meeting. Remove Mr. Herman. And he's continuing to disrupt the meeting. I'm glad you can swear pretty good, but let's take him out. Remove him from the meeting. Okay, Mr. Hunt. He's continuing to in fact, hold Mr. Hunt.
Hold on, Mr. President.
Mr. City Attorney is continuing to disrupt the meeting. That's why he was removed. Mr. Hunt.
The Red Chief Hunt for the record. But anytime you do have to rescind the Brown Act and you get caught with a public violation, and it should be geared to the city attorney, he should have caught that way before. It does need to be reconsidered and redone. The city ought to be ashamed of themselves for actually doing this. Anytime the city get caught rescinding. But it's just like the right to lose the right to due process. All these people lost the right to due process because you have to rescind because you guys didn't follow the Brown Act. And that's the truth, and you guys ought to be ashamed of your motherfucking self. Thank you, the Red Chief Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or Jay Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. What happened here? There were 2 vacant parcels of Cahuenga Boulevard, which the developer wanted to build huge erections off. They snuck it through. Now, when they do it in a black and Hispanic neighborhood, and the blacks and Hispanics don't find out, and they threaten litigation, they don't give a damn here. They know that you don't have the money for litigation. You don't have it. But this group, which is a wealthy white group, they're almost all lawyers themselves. In other words, they were able to get justice because they're wealthy. If you're in a neighborhood which is poor, a poor neighborhood, they're going to walk all over you. But when these white people, these wealthy white people, and they have every
Get back,
right to
Mr. Walsh. Get back on the subject.
What happens? Oh, you see, confer with legal counsel in relation to significant exposure and threat of litigation. Well, I mean, the city attorney is a joke. I mean, even we beat him. That's why we can use any language we want. We're talking now about Lake Hollywood. We're talking about a very wealthy neighborhood. It's near Universal, and they want to destroy their neighborhood. These people here have spent millions of dollars on these properties, and you try to sneak it through as if they were just black people or Hispanic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walsh. You're off the subject.
I'm talking about prior.
No, I've already warned you twice, so now you're disrupting. Mr. Orrin Feldman and Mr. Akala, you're out of time. Mr. Orrin Feldman.
Thank you, Mr. President, other council members. My name is Orrin Feldman. I'm the current...
Hold on. Mr. Kakala, sit down. You're no standing in the aisle. Sit down. No, you're out of time. Sit down. Okay, go ahead, sir.
I was recently elected as the Vice President of Hollywood Hills West Neighborhood Council, a position I've served in previously, but not the past 2 years. This matter was not brought to the board's attention at our neighborhood council ever until we realized what was going on last summer. On the other hand, for close to a decade, we've worked closely with the prior council office and the planning department on the Hollywood Community Plan. We had been over every single lot. We had had meetings and maps presented to us showing every single family residential lot zone in our area. And yet we were never apprised of this lot change. We were never apprised of the zoning changes. That is reprehensible. It really is astounding. The planning department sends out a weekly early notification report. In July, your planning department, our planning department, got an application file dated July 10 days into the current council member's term. Subsequently, this item appeared on an early notification report. We all scratched our heads and asked, where was this and what was going on? When we got a hold of the application, we were really astounded and appalled. We had worked so closely with the prior council office that this only could have been done intentionally. We had had previous projects of this size, like NBC Universal's master plan, 8150 Sunset Boulevard. We had actually, and I personally had held town meetings to let the community have input, and over 150 people had showed up. Nothing was told to the community about this. This was done in the council committee meetings without even a phone call or an email to let us know and come. So our prior council office partnership apparently thought we shouldn't know. You now know the truth.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I call forward Vince Bartoni from the Planning Department? Thank you, Mr. Bertoni, for making the time to come out today. Could you please provide us with a breakdown on the process that the developer chose to take in initiating the general plan amendment and zone change?
I think the applicant or the applicant's representative accurately described the process. The only way the general plan can be amended is to be initiated either by the City Council, the City Planning Commission, or the Planning Director. In this choice, and this is a situation with both a prior City Council member and a prior Planning Director, I should mention it was prior to me, the applicant chose to approach the City Council, not the City Planning Commission or the Planning Director. So they chose to go to the City Council member to request that the general plan amendment go forward. The City Council, through a motion, approved that initiation of the general plan amendment.
Right. Thank you. And agreed. Never said that it was an improper process. Now, could you please provide us with a breakdown of the proposed project?
Yes, and I would like to turn that over to Mr. Charlie Roush, one of our associate zoning administrators, to go through the details of the project.
Good morning, Charlie Roush, associate zoning administrator. The project is for approximately 250 units, 75 of which are going to be townhouse units. The remainder of them would be apartment units in a major building. There's also a surface parking lot set aside for 7 parking spaces for the people using the dedicated open space, which is being done on this project. It's approximately half of the development of the site will be dedicated to the city for access. There's a road that goes up to the top of the ridge line, which gives access to Lake Hollywood and views over the Hollywood sign. Let's see, there's about 460 parking spaces, which will be in a subterranean building, except for the lot, those belonging to the townhouses. And they're also putting in a transit hub, which will allow shuttle services to Hollywood to go to the subway and various bus lines in the area, and for shared car services like Lyft and Uber.
Now, to your knowledge, have any alternatives to this project been presented or even discussed?
I'm not aware of any alternatives to the project that have been discussed with our staff in the department. I know that they are in the process of preparing an environmental impact report. And so as part of that environmental impact report, there would be a discussion of alternatives. I should also say that if there are discussions of alternatives, they need to be looked at in light of the findings that need to be made in order to approve a general plan amendment. We talked about what it takes to initiate one, and that's the 3 channels. There are also certain findings that need to be made in order to approve a general plan amendment. So we would, if this project were to move forward, we'd have to look at the project in light of those findings to see if those could be made by the city.
And just to be clear, the phase of this current application or project is at the can you comment on that? Exactly where we're at?
This is Charlie Roush again. What we have is an initial study. It's a draft initial study that's hasn't arrived to the environmental review section yet, which I'm the supervisor of. It's still out in the San Fernando Valley. You asked about project alternatives. Normally in an initial study that just looks at the initial environmental areas of impact and doesn't get into things like...
so we're basically at step 1.
You're at step 1. We haven't even contemplated
even before the step 1. Right. We're at the beginning. We haven't even started anything at the beginning. Right. That's...
The initial study has not been approved by the department.
Right. So we're at the very... For where we stand, we're at the very beginning of the process.
Right.
As a department.
So it's basically an application with a concept project. It's not even a project. It's just literally application.
Right.
Thank you.
With the project description, there's much more that has to go through in terms of a lot of analysis and review, and there's the findings we have to make to approve a general plan amendment, and we have to be very careful to see whether or not we can make those.
Great. My colleagues have any questions, or should I close?
There are no questions. You can close, Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, thank you for that. Vince. And just to be clear again, there is no project. There is an application for a proposed project. And as both the planning director and the developer stated, there are 3 ways to initiate a project, which is to the council office, through the planning director, or through the CPC. Now, what we have before us was initiated by my predecessor through the council office, which starts at 250 units. There's questions about how this was even arrived to 250 units. There's questions that the planning department has, but most importantly, the community has lots of questions and is an objection as well. And we could start from a status of 250 and scale back, or we could start together from the beginning, and we are at the beginning, and get all stakeholders involved, including the planning department, the community, everybody else, to work together to come up with a concept project that we can move forward on. So if we know for a fact that everybody has concerns or is an objection to the current concept application, why beat around the bush? Let's save everybody time. Let's save the developer money and start from an approach that we could all come to a conclusion, that we could agree on. And any proposed development must be consistent with the character of the area. It must be considerate of the environment. And most importantly, it needs to move forward with community input. We have before us the request to initiate an EIR on this one single project that has garnered no community input and would effectively tie the community's hands because we're starting at 250. We must work to restore trust in government. And what happened here, what we have before us is the kind of action and the reason why the Neighborhood Integrity Initiative is looming over our head. Lack of trust. Lack of transparency. So let's start fresh. And let's make it clear to neighborhoods that this is a new day. And colleagues, I thank you for helping me do the job that I was elected to do and to get garner community input. And I ask you for your aye vote on both of these items. Thank you.
Okay, since I told you to close, Mr. Cedillo, are you on the queue, or was that an accident? Or?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cedillo.
As chair of the housing, Mr. President, I thank you for that assignment. This city needs 100,000 units of housing. We have a housing crisis. We have 40,000 people sleeping in the streets. It's the most expensive city to live in. Housing costs are prohibitive. And so it's difficult to say no to a project for 250 units of housing. Every day I get up and think, how are we going to build housing in this city? How do we get to 100,000 units that we need to get to? On the other hand, Councilmember has been the champion of community input. He has stated clearly what is purported to be an axiom in these chambers, that these decisions are local decisions, and by that I mean decisions made for our specific districts. All of our districts are unique. They have their own unique character, they have their history, and they have their own development. And so those are the factors that are at play. I do want to clarify, though, that this Community Integrity Initiative is not driven by distrust in government. That is not, in fact, the case. It's driven by somebody's desire to maintain the view from their office building. And let's be clear about that. Let's be very honest about that so that we're not adding more to something that is not the case. Since we are talking about candor and integrity and community input process, those are the factors that will prevail on this matter. But I will also note, Mr. President, as you have charged me with, we have to think about how we move this city forward and build the housing that we must. However, in this case, our council member has pointed out in a very compelling manner that he has an obligation, a duty, and a right to design and develop his district as his community desires. I concur and I support.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilmember Rue.
Cedillo. So the way this will happen, we'll take 2 votes, Mr. Rue. We're going to vote on item 10 first, and then we will vote on item 11. So with that said, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Now let's open the roll on 11. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Let's, Madam Clerk, recess the regular meeting and let's go into the special, please.
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Harris Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson, 11 members and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Why don't we go to item 15? I have Mr. Gus and Mr. Walsh. Item 15 in the special meeting.
Okay. Another one, a very interesting subject. In fact, I'm going to be generous today with Mr. Wesson. I will only speak 1 minute on this when I have up to 2. This is exactly a really interesting piece. It is one of the subjects that I will be speaking on most likely this Sunday on KFI AM 640 when I am a guest of Elizabeth Espinoza on KFI AM 640. And that's it. KFI Sunday 6 a.m. I will be Elizabeth Espinoza's guest.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. This agenda item is quite similar to the previous agenda item. They're sneaking this through, and the people, temporary closure, how long is that? Fencing of a segment of Bianca Avenue, for how long? How tall? None of that is in the agenda item. The people who live in that neighborhood don't know about it. Once they know about it, if they have the money, then they can come here and get and threaten the city attorney with a lawsuit, and they will pull it back. That's the way things work. Number 15 doesn't even have the name of the city council person who's behind this. They can do anything they want to do if you don't have the do-re-mi to hire a really good land use lawyer. And when I say a really good land use lawyer, that's
stay on the subject. Get back, Mr. Walsh.
Saying this is the Los Angeles County, and also here it talks about the MTA satisfying the conditions of the Bureau of Engineering for excavation permit. They're going to be digging. It doesn't say anything about digging here. I just want you to know that they don't give a syphilitic rat's ass whether you live or die unless you give these whores money.
Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
We'll move to item 16. Ms. Ramirez and Mr. Gus. Item 16.
Thank you. Here, on this item, the city administrative officer is to report a program that is supposed to show funding and provide services for Medi-Cal beneficiaries and have these services provided for, more than likely, to the wetbacks and the gangbangers at taxpayers' expenses. Again, these are illegal wetbacks and gangbangers, and now they've got a roadmap to come here and suck up all the services that military veterans, baby boomers, and senior citizens don't get because they're too busy living on the streets. And these freeloaders, welfare recipients, gangbangers, and wetbacks are receiving all this, and yet we are supposed to pony up this money, even though it says it comes out of the city administrative officers' general fund. Well, we are the general fund. We are the ones that are paying for it. Even I, as a homeless victim, gang stalking victim who lives on the streets, when you count my head with the other homeless, I am also, as a taxpayer, paying for these freeloading wetbacks and gangbangers. How is that possible? And again, I would hope that you stop the Medi-Cal beneficiary services to these wetbacks and gangbangers and give it to the rightful citizens, Americans. And we won't be having to live out there, and we, our military, should be absorbing these services up front. Medical, dental, and every service, Medi-Cal and welfare, they should be the recipients first and foremost. Why are we servicing these wetbacks and gangbangers all over L.A. and L.A. County? It's unconscionable. Really, this is unconscionable. It's downright criminal. So again, I say, stop this horrendous abuse that we are paying for with our life, blood, sweat, and tears. Stop them now. Don't give them the green light. Give them a red light and deportation.
Thank you, Mr. Gus.
Yes, the last sentence of this agenda items points out that these are restricted use funds. And I see that the motion is by Krikorian, Englander, and Wesson. Now, there's a trustworthy crew, Krikorian, Englander, and Wesson. You mix in those three names with the dubious, vague governmental name of state intergovernmental transfer, matching funds, restricted use funds, and you have the brain trust of Krikorian, Englander, and Wesson overseeing this? I don't think so. That sounds like a big stinking hunk of cheese. And this has slush fund and hidden funds written all over it. It is exactly the kind of subject that I will speak about this Sunday on KFI, AM 640 with Elizabeth Espinoza.
Thank you. Stay on the subject, Jan.
I am. I'm letting the public know that on Sunday I will extrapolate.
Okay, now I've given you a lot of leeway on this. Come on, Mr. Gus. Just stick to the item.
I am concerned about this item. I want the public to know more about this item. I'm speaking about the item here, and I will soon speak about it in other forums. One of the other forums about which I'm going to speak on this subject will be this Sunday on KFI. I think I have a right to let the public know where else this issue is going to be discussed. And the fact that the City Council doesn't want this issue discussed in the media, in any other public forum, is another reason why you can't have these people in office, why Mr. Wesson is not suited to be a county supervisor.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Let us prepare to vote on this issue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Let's take item 14. Mr. Weisar, I'm going to look at you first. Would this be or do we want to go to Mr. Koretz? Or?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to amend the motion on this to refer recommendations 1 through 3 of the Transportation Committee report to Transportation and Plum Committees, and send the proposed changes in recommendation 4 of the report simultaneously to the LACPC and the mayor for their recommendation. Can I get a second on that motion? Thank you.
Okay, let's prepare to vote.
Mr. President,
yes.
That is a substitute motion, so that requires a vote for council to substitute Mr. Koretz's
Okay, so let's
verbal
have
motion.
that vote first. Vote is on substitution. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Now let's actually vote on the issue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we can adjourn special, return to regular. Or, Mr. City Attorney, is there an announcement that needs to be made?
Nothing is going to go smoothly with this thing.
Everything we plan out and coordinate.
It's wrong.
That was so weird.
So let's, we'll adjourn the special. We'll return, excuse me, to the regular. And that should take us to public comment, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. President.
So if I could have Mr. Walsh and Mr. Gus and Mr. Murphy please come forward. Excuse me. We'll take 10 and 11, Mr. Rue, forthwith. Okay. Yes, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, remember, KFI, 6:30 a.m., hear Mr. Gus, and you won't be interrupted by Mr. Wesson. Anybody but Englander. He shows up here and presses the button there. He gets his full salary. I think it's $4,000 a meeting, the highest salary in him, and then he leaves to fundraise for supervisor. The mail-in ballots are out. Anybody but Englander for a supervisor. The Da Vinci fire, 2 years ago, they just held a pretrial hearing because they have a black man with a Islamic name, and they are convicting him. He started the fire as much as my mother did. Gender-neutral bathrooms, we have them now. Mayor Walsh in Boston has put plaques up. We're asking anybody who wants to use a bathroom here, use any one, put up the plaques so everyone realizes these are gender-neutral bathrooms in L.A. and at the City Hall.
Okay, so if I can get Mr. Hunt, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Previn.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Sunday morning on KFI, AM 640. I will be a guest of Elizabeth Espinoza, and we will be free to talk about Mr. Wesson's North Korean-style repressive running of these meetings. North Korea has a repressive dictator named Kim Jong-un. City Council has our dear leader, Comrade Herb Wesson. And part of the things that Mr. Wesson does that are like North Korea is that they split Korea into North Korea and South Korea. Mr. Wesson redistricted Koreatown in Los Angeles so that a young female challenger to his job would have fewer Korean votes. That's exactly what they do in North Korea. Mr. Wesson brings his sons into leadership, just like the North Koreans do, and he found a way to illegally extend his term, even though the people didn't want it, so that he could serve more time in office. No on Englander, Wesson, or Hahn for county supervisor. KFI, Sunday.
Thank you. Okay, Sean, followed by Mr. Hunt, Mr. Previn, and Ms. Richardson. Yes, sir.
A week from today, Expo lines will open to Santa Monica. I'm happy about it. No more sitting on the 405 freeway. DWP is not honest. They're still doing dishonest things. I'm sure you heard about it a while back. They need to straighten up and fly right. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Previn, are you still here? Ms. Richardson. Okay, Mr. Hunt, the floor is yours.
The Red Chief Hunt for the record. As I say before, I am not impressed with Mr. Herb Wesson. One, you violate the Brown Act. Number two, you violate the people's rights. The people have the right to finish their final thought at a meeting. That's what the 2 minutes is about. That's a violation of the Brown Act, which is a misdemeanor in federal court. These guys want to file it on you. Number two, you guys should go out and settle with me for the $500,000, because if I come in here with attorneys, it's going to be probably $1.5 million that it's going to cost you guys. Number three, I've never heard anybody talk about the girl that came up dead at the Metropolitan Station. We're going to get down to the bottom of that. Number four, you guys need to reevaluate yourself, because you guys are all fucked up council people. Some of you guys are good, and some of you guys are bad. And number five, I'm coming after 11th District again for the First Amendment. I'm going to be a three-time champion.
Thank you. Mr. Previn, followed by Ms. Richardson, Ms. Yvonne Michelle Autry. Yes, Mr. Previn.
Yes, it's Eric Previn from CD2. And the city attorney, please take note that item 10 and 11 today, case file 14-1479, I'm a public speaker from time to time, and our rule here in City Hall is you get 2 minutes on each agendized item. I asked to exercise that right to speak on those two items, and yet you conflated me into 2 minutes, which is a severe disadvantage for someone who's trying to speak on both of those items. One was the rescission and the other was the whatever. This is not okay, and Mr. Rue is celebrating his persuading the council to bring the applicant back to the beginning of the process, and I'm supportive of that. What I'm completely not supportive of is this effort on the part of City Council to decide who they dole out advantage and disadvantage to improperly. This is a theme with this body, and this needs to, Mr. Blumenfield, thank you for taking a good, long consideration on this one, needs to change. You can't simply do this.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson, followed by Ms. Michelle Autry, followed by Mr. Juan Acala.
This regards to an airplane that can leave from Los Angeles to New York and get there in 30 minutes. Chief Beck and Serberchoff may know a little bit about it. I don't know. There was an article in the Los Angeles Times or the Yahoo News concerning this plane. I don't know which one. That was about 3 years ago. Asked one high-tech company if that was their airplane. They said it wasn't. This plane could be used for warfare against the United States. By the time someone called NASA, NASA, this plane could be directly over Texas, the state of Texas. By the time the action could be taken against that plane, it could be in New York City. It could be dropping bombs within 12 inches of its target, perhaps, not necessarily, but maybe, all the way there.
Next.
What I wanted to say is, since Herman is gone with his NWA, niggas with an attitude, I guess he's an Hispanic Negro, he's still alive with this ongoing extermination, genocide, Holocaust of black people. Again, I'd like my 40 acres and a mule and my reparations, and I don't expect that to be in the form of homelessness on Skid Row or on San Julian. Again, just for the record, I'd like to object to the TIs who are continually subjugated to illegal entries, disabling printers, computers, keyboards, anything that might give us an opportunity to continue to be viable and functional economically in this genocide of people that you have put in the trash, especially black people. All of the resources that this country still has not given any reparations to black people. You're giving it to the Hispanic people, give it to the black people. You think you can exterminate us so you won't have to? Well, some of us are still alive.
Thank you. And Mr. Acala?
I represent all the black people of the world, and my biggest wish is that Mr. Donald Trump would go to Dodger Stadium and somebody would impale him in a Dodger dog. That's what he deserves. That asshole does not have the right to speak to us, the Latinos, the way he does. Next time he goes like this with his mouth, somebody put a Winnie in his mouth. And while he's doing that, somebody put a Winnie up his ass. That's what he deserves. A Dodger dog is long and skinny. That's what he deserves. Straight up his ass. Donald Trump, go fuck yourself. Donald fuck. That's what you are, Donald fuck.
That concludes general public comment. That brings us where? Oh, Ms. Ramirez, I didn't have a card on you, but I'll search. It must be somewhere. Please come on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'd like to address this to the Alhambra Police Department, Officer Marshall. He's a tall white dude, baldy, and Officer Rongavila. from the Alhambra Police Department and Officer Female Orozco, who know absolutely nothing on gang stalking, bullying, and community harassment. And again, let me give you a little tidbit. Gang stalking is a stalking by more than one person to a victim, usually involving community harassment or the mob using people from all backgrounds and vocations to harass, tracking 24/7, sometimes organizing lethal vehicle accidents, poisonings, electric harassment, home invasion robberies, property destruction, corruptive, ignorant doctors' diagnosis, and giving to stamp the victim as bogus, mentally ill, with delusions, paranoia, schizophrenia. Everything is done covertly and sophisticated real-time dispatching system to organize the criminals' harassment and attacks upon often in the hundreds of thousands of criminals participating against innocent victims.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That concludes general public comment. Madam Clerk, that brings us where?
Mr. President, there are motions for posting and referral.
They are posted. They are referred.
The desk is clear.
Okay, members, announcements, members. Announcements? No announcements. Mr. Buscaino.
Come here. I'm going to ask Mr. Bonin to stand next to me on this announcement. Ciclavia is coming to Watts on Sunday. Thank you, Mike, for your leadership on the Metro Board. 103rd Street in Central, Mr. President. That's going to be an incredible hub. Ciclavia is coming to Southeast cities, including Watts. So we're also going to reopen Watts Civic Center and City Hall. I couldn't believe when I first got here, Watts City Hall was shut down. But we're giving it back to the people in Watts. Wonderful. We're going to open the doors. We want to thank all city departments for making that happen. And thanks for your leadership. Bringing Watts to...
And the West Side will get Ciclavia back in March for my birthday.
Fantastic. Happy birthday.
All right. Any other announcements? Okay, let's all rise for adjourning motions. If everyone in the council would please rise for adjourning motions. I'm looking to my right side, which is Ms. Martinez's side. I see none. I'm looking to my left. I don't see any to my left. Members have a productive weekend. This meeting is adjourned.